Hello, everybody. Welcome on in to today's show. Very excited to have you here. First, we're going to have the Trunk Treasures. Atheists have entered the chat. Dun, dun, dun. Then we'll hit the Big Ear Bulletin. Deseret book, polls, LGBTQ book. This is very fascinating. You'll really want to stick around for the Big Ear Bulletin. Breaking news. This is, making the waves, making the headlines. But first, before all of that, the elephant in the room. What the heck, bleeped out, is a PIMO Mormon? Let's get into that first segment, the elephant in the room.
Elephant in the room.
And for today's show, I'm joined by the man, the leading saint. He is Kurt. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me, Rylan. The leading saint. I like that. I should put that on my license plate or something, Follow me. I'm the leading saint.
Leading Saints podcast, which you've been doing for a while.
Yeah, the podcast's been around since 2014. I mean, you were still in diapers back then, right?
No, I was not in diapers. I was actually on my mission during that time.
Were you?
So
Okay.
I was, yeah, see?
Nice. Yeah,
So not too bad.
Yeah, I've been around the podcasting block, so.
I mean, you can tell you got the fancy mic going on.
Yeah, this isn't my first mic, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So, Kurt, what the heck is a PIMO Mormon? Do you know what the answer to that is?
In preparation for this live stream, you had texted, hey, you said, all right, if we talk about PIMOs, and I'm like, heck yeah, man. And I'm like, all right, I better go Google that. What is a PIMO?
You don't know what you stepped into, man, because this is wild stuff.
I'll talk about anything, so.
All right. Well, you see this picture here? This is the image that represents PIMOs. I think Jared from X decided that this was just like I don't know who did, but at some point this frog picture was associated with the PIMO movement. Now, everyone in the chat, everyone joining in, PIMO stands for physically in, mentally out. And if you go to ex-mormon subreddit, there's a lot of people who self-proclaim as PIMOs. Mm. In fact, recently there's been people who have left the church and have said that they had an extensive period of time where they were PIMOs. They were still in the church. They were physically there, but they did not believe in it. And they were sometimes bishops, sometimes just regular members. But we have some, wild things that we need to talk about when it comes to the PIMOs. So I went to the cesspool of the internet, aka ex-mormon subreddit.
Oh boy, just to see it out alive.
So this is kind of interesting because even John DeLynn has a section, a sub URL that's dedicated to PIMOs. So this is kind of a phenomena among the ex-Mormon community of people who are yeah, I'm ex-Mormon, but I'm still pretending I'm not. Okay. He only has 3 videos up there. I don't know if he keeps it up to date. So yes, PIMO, physically in, mentally out. So basically you show up, you participate kind of, but you just don't believe any of it. You think it's garbage. And you're like an ex-Mormon on the inside, a TBM, as they say.
Yeah, I would say you don't necessarily think it's garbage, right? Not all of them. Sort of you just don't believe, right?
Okay. It depends. I think this is different from, because some people try and say oh, maybe it's you just have doubts. But no, that's not what this is. Everyone, to some extent, has some kind of doubt here or there, whatever. We go through different trials, crises, whatever. This is a little bit different. This is I actively, I don't just have doubts. I don't believe any of this stuff, but I still go. And you'll see by some of the stories we're going to see that people openly have shared on ex-Mormon subreddit. But here's my question for you, Kurt. Yes. Kurt F. Brother Frank. Yeah. How many PIMOs do you think are in the church?
Ooh.
How many do you think there are? Just if you had to guess.
Now, it's one of those things where I want to take this more thoughtful response, being aren't we all sort of PIMOs to some extent? Right. But
well, how many are the way I described it?
Right. I would say
double agents.
Less than 3%. And when you're saying in the church, do you mean baptized or showing up every week?
Baptized, showing up, but just...
Okay. They would be classified as active members, but they're PIMOs.
So you have to be active in order to be a PIMO, or else you're not physically in, I would say. So at least mostly
I'll
active.
say the 7%, and I'm probably way low. It's probably one of those things like actually 3%. I'm like, whoa.
Well,
That's the
I think a little high, honestly. Because,
Yeah, I would say
mean,
7%.
you can tell they're, physically exactly how you say. Check this. I thought this was interesting. One of the first questions that someone had on ex-mormon subreddit from Lonely Offer 6236 was, what percentage of active members are actually PIMO? And this person self-describes as a PIMO. They say, I feel stuck as a PIMO and still feel like I may be that way for several years. I recently reached out to a couple of my childhood friends. Two of them said they were PIMO as well, along with one of their husbands. Plus, my BIL was as well. What is BIL? Do you know what that is?
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Okay, thank you.
Hey, you help me with PIMO, I'll help you with BIL. So.
There we go. All of these people are millennials and served a mission. Why are we all so stuck? If we all left at the same time, who would be left? What are people's guesses for percentages of PIMO? So that's why I wanted to ask you that, because so we heard you're active Latter-day Saint, right?
Yes.
Can I ask you, are you a PIMO? Okay, you're not a PIMO. I didn't think you were. But so we heard
physically in, mentally in. PP. All right, let's take a left. All right.
So people in the chat, what do you think the answer is? And also, how do you think that compares to what the ex-Mormon subreddit community was saying about it? Because this was the number one response with 56 upvotes. I wager in any given word boundary, 50% are on the records, 50% are far removed. It's like they aren't even there. Of the 50%, that is of record, 25% are active / less active. And based on return report numbers, only 20-25% attend regularly. Of that figure, I really only feel about 10% are fully in. Okay, so that's 10% only are fully in, willing to serve with a smile. I feel 15%, over half of the active group, is actually in nuanced belief, which I don't think that necessarily counts as PIMO, burnt out or have doubts, and they are either PIMO or figuring it out. Likewise, I feel a good chunk of those people attend but don't care about fitting the mold or living the rules. So, I mean, they kind of like glumped. Most people don't really consider just having doubts as PIMO, but sometimes people try and lump it in there. So this kind of person kind of lumped it in a little bit, but nuanced belief, burnt out, or having doubts, and they are either PIMO or figuring it out. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, like the ex-Mormon subreddit likes to believe that there's a ton of these people. And I don't think so. Honestly, like I look like my ward, like, I don't know, like the people who attend, it just seems like a very uncomfortable position for someone to be in, because you're kind of lying. No, not kind of, like they actively admit that they're lying in a lot of ways. And we'll see some examples of that, but your thoughts, Kurt.
And you being, you kind of, you have background in statistics, right? Like, isn't there a projection phenomenon where we kind of project our own experience on our community, right? So if you're a PIMO, you're more likely to believe there's more than there actually are, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. So that's got to be what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, because he's saying 50%.
He's saying, like only 25% are active, and then only 10% are not PIMO. So basically,
and I just
more than half of the people you go to church with are in some way, shape, or form PIMO. And I just I don't think that's right. But sure, maybe.
I feel like there's such a scale or a spectrum here that we're talking about, because you talking about a lot of these individuals are lying, because I know one brother, I'm serving as Elders Quorum president. I go and visit this couple, and I'm kind of mainly visiting with him, since it's Elders Quorum related. And he just says, hey, just so you know, like, I'm out. Like, I come with my family sometimes, but I'm out.
That's not PIMO, though.
Okay. So, and that's what I'm trying to understand is that, so that's not PIMO, because he's physically in, but mentally out, right? But
not really physically in, because physically is in. They're trying to say
so
that
you're like going
no
through
one
the motions.
Would know. No one would know that you don't believe.
You're going to the temple or the family sealing or whatever, right?
Yeah. Like no one would know. You just think this is all wish-wash. Like people talk about how they're in church and like, and then they come to ex-Mormon subreddit and post like, oh, like I wanted to go to the temple, so I lied through my interview, blah, blah. So I'm not calling them liars. They're kind of like self-admitting. So let's look at some of these. This might help out kind of what this phenomenon is, okay? So here's one that I found super interesting. This one was just 2 days ago. As a PIMO bishop, my wife and I drove 2 towns over to try coffee and beer, which, by the way, time out.
Yes.
There's a possibility that these people are just like trying to get clicks on Reddit. And so I fully acknowledge that like this person might not actually be a bishop and is just like saying this, but let's just go with it. Okay.
This way, Reddit is the worst, but continue.
Yeah. 262 upvotes though. Cause the ex-mormon subreddit loves these PIMO stories. Like, yeah,
Right.
they're like double agents.
Duping them. Yeah.
Duping them. Yeah. Okay. I posted my ex's story about a year ago, but I shared this detail with some friends and they thought it was pretty humorous. So I thought I'd share it here too. I don't use this account much, so finding the exit story should be pretty easy if you're interested. Anyway, so this sounds like it didn't happen recently, but happened a while ago and then they told it when they left. I'm lucky that my wife and I left the church together and were able to support each other through that process. While we were still in the church but planning to leave, we wanted to try coffee and beer and wine. We did not want to be caught buying these things because I was still the acting bishop. So that's why I say that, if this is true, the person was, lying as a bishop, you would think to stay as a bishop and be doing these things. Anyway, so our solution was to go to a small gas station convenience store 2 towns away. We purchased coffee and beer and wine from the store different times. The wine was gross. We didn't drink alcohol in the car. We took that home, of course. The coffee was great. We still go there sometimes. They have great breakfast pizza. I'm so grateful for that time that we had there because it gave us so much to talk about while driving and sitting, enjoying our coffee and breakfast pizza. As a serving bishop, I found it very funny to be enjoying coffee and other beverages. That coffee and tea actually have health benefits. It's just one of many things that I resent about the church now. Hope you enjoyed this little story. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, but what are your initial thoughts on, now are you kind of seeing this PIMO, I in the thumbnail, I said PIMO problem? Yes. Like how often is this happening where we have bishops that are just like, I'm going to go, drive out the town away and drink some beer, or what do they say? Wine and coffee and whatnot.
I guess the more I'm familiar with this concept of PIMO, the more that percentage keeps dropping from now I'm at
I think it's crazy.
2%, right?
Yeah.
And this is maddening. One, if someone who's not to flex or anything, but I've been a bishop, Ryland, but someone who's been a bishop, had these experiences, it is such a daunting role, a heavy role. And for someone to just go through the motions and pretend with it, what are you doing? Especially he talks about being, what's at the end, being resentful towards the church. And he probably has criticisms about the church lacking transparency and being something they're claiming to be something they're not. And then to just feed into this and to stand in a place that somebody else who actually believes and could bless lives in such a deeper level, rather than someone just pretending. It's kind of maddening, to be honest. So it's sad.
And the thing is this isn't even okay. So that one guy who recently, oh my gosh, the guy who's making all the sexual abuse accusations for the church hotline not too long ago, viral video. The church actually called him out by name. Boiler.
Boiler,
so he admitted that his last year or two of being a bishop, I don't remember exactly how long, but he said he didn't believe. And he says in that interview that he was just like, oh, you want to go to the temple? I'm not going to ask you the questions. I'm just going to sign it. Here you go. If that's what you think is good, because he didn't believe in it anymore, but he was still acting as bishop. So that's another open person. That person has a name to his face where he openly says, hey, I didn't believe this. I was a bishop. And so I started acting in a different way in regard to my non-belief, but I didn't tell anyone until I think he finished, because he's been on Mormon stories a few times. I think he finished his calling, and that's when he came away from the church. Sounds similar for this person, they don't want to get released, so they'll just kind of do this weird thing where they're hiding and drinking their beer and coffee, and then they'll be like, see, I didn't believe in this the whole time, kind of a thing. Anyway, but that's not the only one.
Don't get the point. Yeah. All right, there's more.
Let's look at some interesting ones.
Oh my goodness.
2 weeks ago. See, these are all kind of recent. My ward is 80% church employees. Most are PIMO. Do you believe that the church employees are PIMO?
Doubt it.
Let's read what it says. Honestly, not sure if I'm surprised or not. We are in a ward near an area headquartered. As a result, most members who attend, or at least someone in their household, work or have worked directly for the church. A bunch don't even show up to second hour. They're notorious for turning down call-ins, apparently, according to what I've heard in ward councils. When someone actually needs help, most are not there. See, this doesn't sound like This is why we need a good definition for PIMO. Anyway, when you talk to them or visit them, they really don't seem to care much about the church or the gospel. They're typically miserable or disillusioned, or both, just trying to stick around until retirement, it seems, because applying somewhere with the church on your resume is likely a dead end. Okay, I don't think that's true. But 261 upvotes on this one. And yeah, so this one's a little bit different. It's kind of giving us a slightly different picture where maybe people aren't like so, I don't know. This one's like almost like you just show up for cultural reasons. You don't believe any of it, but like you're not going to leave. You're not going to like, I'm ex-mormon necessarily, because I don't know, because this one's, what are your thoughts?
So are they doing it? I mean, generally, is it mainly to keep peace in their home? Like, is their spouse even in the dark with their opinion? I mean, obviously,
so you have a
bishop is going to the liquor store with his gas station with his wife.
But, no,
I just don't get it.
A lot of them that I read, the biggest motivation is mostly parents. So these are kids whose parents like just want to believe that their kids are in the church, and they're like, nope, I'm just been pretending so that my mom doesn't break her heart, you know? And so one of the ones I found that I didn't post on here, there's this text thread between a sister and a brother, or maybe it's two sisters. Anyway, the sister was talking to the dad, and the dad was like, hey, I think you should consider going on a mission. And so she texted the brother and was like, oh my gosh, dad's trying to get me to go on a mission. And he's like, oh my gosh, little does he know that neither of us actually believe in any of this crap. We're just, pretending for whatever. She's like, yeah, I know. What should I say? And he posted the text thread, and he's like, just tell him that you prayed about it and you felt like that's not the right path for me. And that gets me out of everything. She's like, oh my gosh, you're a genius. He's like, I feel bad lying to our dad. This is how it ended. I feel bad that we have to like lie to our dad that we don't actually believe any of this nonsense. And the brother was like, well, he should feel bad for teaching us the nonsense in the first place. And then they sent like the painting nails emoji, which is like, oh, we don't care kind of a thing. Anyway, so like that's kind of an example. I saw a few people saying that like their parents are really in the church and they don't want to break their parents' hearts. So that's kind of the motivation. So they pretend like on the surface, and maybe as they move out, they start actually attending. They just like don't let their family know that they're not attending kind of a thing. And like their family thinks they're still active. So that's how I see PIMO, is like you make it seem like to others that you are active because you don't want them to know. And you just kind of go through the minimal motions to pretend to be active when you don't believe in it.
Right. So on a clinical level, therapists call this codependency, where you are simply living your life in a way to manage the feelings of another person so that you feel okay, right? Like,
I think that's like what it is.
There's some help there that's needed here. And I guess, I don't know if there's, are we, I don't know, like what is the main hope is to get to a place, like, what do we do with these people? Obviously, and I mean, we want to invite everybody to church,
Let's
right?
do
like,
something with them. No.
I'm just like, I don't know. It's
like, what is the solution? I don't know.
Well,
you
and
tell
not
me?
that they need to be fixed. I mean, I think they should see a therapist if they can't have a really difficult conversation about being authentic and with their family and just navigating, the results of that. But I don't know. It's just so bizarre to me that, I don't know, like this really means a lot to, the vast majority of people that are attending, and they're striving to contribute to a greater cause. And then they got somebody who's just pretending. I'm like, what are we doing?
Well, it's also kind of like a phase that people who are planning to leave the church go through. So if you watch even Johnny Harris talked about, he already decided he wasn't going to leave, or like he was going to leave the church. He didn't believe it, but he said him and his wife still attended for a while. Yeah. Just because he said, quote, we didn't know what else to do. Like, it's just like part of our routine. And so I think a lot of the way people talk about it is kind of like that transition where you don't believe in it, but you still just like show up because, And
don't get me wrong. I don't think these people shouldn't attend. Right? I mean, just
they should. Yeah.
Shout out to Alma. Even if you have a desire to believe, even if you have a desire to put on the tie and show up and sit in the pew, and I mean, I want you there every week. I'm just sort of concerned for, like, this is not a healthy way to live a life, and it's not. I think the pressure is just going to build to something that is not going to end well for your mental health. So, we pray for you, but definitely keep joining us. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the thing, is we want like everyone to attend church with us. Like, of course. And like I think that's the side for us active members, I guess, could be that maybe, we don't want people to feel like they can't be honest. And that's probably a cultural thing where we want people to be like, hey, you can be honest and still attend and like be with, like, that's fine. Like many of us have struggled, even if you like absolutely think it's like ridiculous what we're doing, you're still welcome to show up and participate all you want. Like, you don't have to.
In fact, we hope
be
you
afraid.
do, right? And
yeah, in fact,
the
we
chili
hope
cook-off and the trunk or treat and do all the things, and so
but I do think this is way more of like a familial thing than like a church thing, and so like it's more about like kids and parents is how I see it. I didn't see many examples of like a spousal problem with PIMO, and not, though I'm sure there's many examples of that as well. But yeah, like, I guess but I guess the bigger problem is, if it is a problem, the bigger problem is when you have a calling like bishop, or a calling that like requires you to, be worthy in the sense that you like are actually believing in this stuff. Cause I don't know how else you would be able to help someone go through, a repentance process. And so if you're in like a leadership responsibility and you have those, like, your doubts aren't the problem, but like going out drinking coffee and wine while you're bishop, you should probably be honest about that, right? So honesty on all sides, I think, is warranted, right? If we're all just like, a little more comfortable with being honest, maybe that would do the world good.
Yeah. I mean, secrets on any level will destroy people, I would just encourage them to reach out to somebody. Even, you can send me an email, and I think it's just helpful to tell somebody, and let's start unwinding this and get you to a place where you can just have some integrity, some full integrity. But that's tough go.
I don't know. I can only speak for my parents, but like, I would imagine that most parents are way less judgmental than what kids like to believe, or tend to believe. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I can only, speaking of that bias you're talking about earlier, I can only think about my own situation, my own parents. Then, I'm just applying that blindly to everyone else. I don't know how everyone else's parents are. All right. Any last thoughts on this?
Kurt? I don't think so. I'm glad I learned what a PIMO is, and they're welcome in my ward. And just don't be the bishop, okay? Like, just say no. You don't have to say yes. Just say nah. I'm good. Nobody has to know that you said no. So
and if you're a bishop and you become PIMO, then you should probably let someone know.
That's
probably a good idea.
I'm gonna ask my bishop some very pointed questions, like, be like, "What's up with you, man?" Like, do you really believe? But really, do you really believe?
He's like, wait, when you walked in here, I thought I was giving the interview to you for your temple recommend. What are you interviewing me for?
I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's turn the tables.
All right. Okay, then let's get into the next segment, the trunk treasures. Trunk treasures, everyone. All right, I don't know, but for you, if that was the same for you, but that was loud in my ear.
It was a little loud. Here we go. It's all right.
Real quick, the purpose of this channel is to elevate members of the church by building bridges of understanding through fun and informative content. So, PIMO brothers and sisters, we're just trying to understand. I'm reading this stuff on ex-mormon subreddit and other places, and we're trying to understand. Build a bridge of understanding. And Absolutely. Second, to help honest actors to take the church seriously by exposing limitations of critics and correcting misconceptions. With that, thank you to the members of the channel. We have Pachyderm members Jacob Wardle, Professor Chimp, and Goromius Gorodian. Don't know if I said that right, but welcome. You are a new member. The colors represent your tenure as a member, which is really cool.
All right, Ryan. So remind me, what is pachyderm? That's an elephant term. What is it?
Yeah. It's like a... How do you describe it? It's a little bit more umbrella than just an elephant, but it's basically like that type of animal. So I think like...
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like the animal family that they're in or whatever.
Something like that. Okay. Pretty funny.
Right, cool.
And then the mammoth members. So this is a tier up that gives you a little bit more bonus material. We got Curious Mad Cat 480. Been texting with you, Curious Mad Cat.
Nice.
He's a Catholic brother. and we're trying to figure out a way to see if we can get something
So
going.
do they get your phone number at this level so that they can text you, or what?
No, I told them to reach out at some point.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Though I guess a lot of people on this do have my phone number. Now that you mention it, Kiori being one of them. Kiori, he's got a YouTube channel. He's involved in the space. You see him in chats everywhere, and he's making content. He's writing a book. He wrote a book. You can buy it on Amazon. Thorgus951. Then we have Smuggy Thornton. Thank you for being a Mammoth member. And Brooke Sabin. And last, Taylor Brandt, 17. New channel member. It's my brother. So really cool. Glad to have him on there. So yeah, if you want to help us, defend these misconceptions that are all over the place. And by the way, there's like no end to the work of defending the misconceptions, and have fun and participate in all this, then you can join the herd by subscribing, or if you want to contribute, you can become a member that gets you access to some behind the scenes stuff and other content. So thank you, everyone. All right. So atheism problems. Did you happen to see this video? It's okay if you haven't.
I did not. So
that's okay. No, that's fine.
I
okay,
usually
so
catch most of yours. So
atheism problems. So I released this one, and if you haven't seen it, everyone, feel free to check it out. I mean, might as well help it out with the algorithm and whatnot, which is fun because most of the time when I make a video, I get, the anti comments coming in, or usually mostly from Christian commenters. Unfortunately, as sad as that is, that's probably like the biggest group who likes to say mean things in the comments. But this is the first time I've really had atheists sometimes I do have, because they're ex-mormon atheists who left the church and now no longer believe in God. But this time I called it atheists have entered the chat because, I got some
POMOs,
atheists.
Right? Physically
POMOs.
out, mentally out. Right?
Yeah, POMOs. Yeah,
POMOs. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I basically make 3 cases in this video. And by the way, I am not making any positive claims in this video, so we'll get to that in a second. But I'm basically saying that, under an atheistic point of view, there's some 3 challenges that I see that are hard to reconcile if you believe in no God. And I'm talking about hard atheism, Gnostic atheism, which is the assertion that there is no God, not like this agnostic atheism where I don't know, I just don't, I'm not convinced.
Believe without beyond a shadow of a doubt type of.
Well, not without a shadow of the doubt, but you make the positive claim that God does not exist. So we would be Gnostic theists because we make the positive claim that God does exist. Anyway, a lot of atheists these days are agnostic atheists, so they're a little weaselly where they're like, well, I don't know if God exists. Maybe he does, but I certainly don't believe it. Anyway, so I try to be careful and target those who are saying there is no God. And Richard Dawkins, I think, would fall into that category, who seems to make the assertion that there isn't. So some atheists are very open about it. Anyway, the 3 challenges I think that would be really hard to reconcile being an atheist are: number 1, how life could begin from non-life. And there's this idea that abiogenesis, which is life being created from non-life. We've never seen that. It's a scientific how does that even work? We don't know. And huge mystery. And if you believe that there's no God, then that's how life had to have come about. But yet it's really hard to say that when you never observe life coming from non-life. We only ever see life coming from other life. So very hard to reconcile, in my opinion. Number 2 is morality. I say that some atheists will just admit that morality is subjective. Hey, what Hitler did, I don't like it. And I say it's wrong, but that's no different from saying I like red, you like green. They'll admit that.
Right.
You have other atheists who say, no, there is such thing as objective morality. And I want to learn more about it because I haven't been convinced that there's a good understanding of that per se. Kind of. I say kind of because I also get it, because as a Latter-day Saints, we kind of believe that morality transcends God because he himself follows certain laws, Anyway, so it gets a little in the weeds there. But yeah, okay, so some of them say that morality, sure, it does exist, but the reason it's still hard on an atheistic worldview is because, sure, it might exist, but it doesn't ultimately matter. If someone does all these terrible things, murders people, steals, never gets caught, dies, was morality objective to them? I mean, they never got caught. They did all these terrible things and there's zero consequence for it, you know? So like, if there's never a consequence for it, is it really objective? Anyway, so I kind of like, even if you think morality is objective as an atheist, there's still like this hard thing to reconcile, which is like, well, but it doesn't ultimately matter. So like, it's a hard thing to square, I think. And then the last one I said, which I know I'm talking a lot. I'm going to get your thoughts.
No, you're good. It's good.
The last one I said was the fine-tuning argument that theists make. So the fine-tuning argument is that, you know, there's all these different constants, parameters in the universe that if they were even slightly off, life as we know it would not exist. And not even that, because some people think like, oh, well, maybe life in a different way would exist. Well, it goes beyond that, because like if things were off just slightly, it's like the atoms themselves wouldn't even like contact each other. So you'd just be like with this voidless emptiness forever, you know? But the fact that like we're on, these numbers are so precisely dialed to like very far down the decimal line that if they were off just barely, life couldn't exist. And so the theists use that as a probabilistical argument for a creator, a fine tuner who put these things in motion. Now for Latter-day Saints, like it's a little weird because we don't believe in creation ex nihilo, you know, and so we can still use it as an argument, though it's a weaker argument, I'd say, than what the theists can use. But the point is, it's a good argument from theists. It's a really good argument. And Latter-day Saints can deal with it well. Theists can obviously deal with it well. Atheists, though, you can't really deal with that argument very well. Like the probabilistic argument says that it's much more likely that we're living in like everything was created as opposed to coming from like a nothing. And so, again, I'm not making the case for theism with this. I'm just saying that argument is hard to reconcile under the atheistic point of view. So let me pause there. Kurt, any thoughts on that?
Yes. Remind me, what was the first one again?
The first one is abiogenesis, life coming from non-life.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, this is interesting because I'm also thinking like, what are the things that atheists say are you know are the strongest arguments against theists, right? And typically they go to children with bone cancer, right? And it's like, how could a God allow that to happen? And to me though, your second one stands out because I feel like just I haven't researched or sat with this extremely long time, so I'm just a guy on YouTube right now yakking. But it seems like atheists or those who maybe leave the church is that it all boils down to they can't reconcile suffering and unfairness, which is essentially the same thing, right? That because suffering exists, that there's something wrong there, right? And it goes to that, your second one where they kind of get stuck there. Like, I don't know what to do with that. And suffering is just suffering. So we should minimize it just because it hurts and other people are hurting and nobody likes to hurt. So let's minimize it. Right. And so, yeah, I think we're in a religious context, especially a Christian context, we have a redeemer to hand off that suffering and to reconcile that suffering through. And it actually leads to more hope and encouragement, and you can live another day knowing that every tear will be wiped away by a loving eternal Savior. But so yeah, those thoughts come to my mind. But I think you got it.
Yeah, I do see that as one of the arguments that atheists make, especially those who were members of the church, for sure.
Yeah. And this is, and I'll just add, and I've even had this conversation recently where I have good friends in the gospel who are active. They're not PIMOs by any means, and they, as I want to be the friend who can take the phone call during a tough time or kind of something is triggering and they're kind of having a hard time reconciling it in their faith journey. And I often see them start in this place of like, yeah, but that's not fair, but that hurts people, right? And I always like to say, well, time out, let's back up. I also recognize the suffering there. I also recognize it's not fair. But if you try and frame the gospel in this context of it makes all things fair and it removes all suffering, that's just a dangerous path to go down because it ends nowhere but a loss of faith, because we live in a fallen world and it's messy and there is suffering and there is unfairness. And It's not about having a religious practice so that it removes those things.
Yeah, totally. And in fact, so I have another video coming out that's going to be exciting. All you atheists who watch that video and maybe are here, I tagged some
All
of you.
atheists.
All you atheists. No, the other video I'm coming out with is actually where Latter-day Saints and atheists actually agree.
Ooh.
And I don't want to spoil too much, but what you're talking about, there's actually some agreement, and I think it's quite interesting. But check this out.
So we could be PIMOs in the atheists gathering.
Yeah, there we go. Okay,
because we
Jello, yeah, Jello 4827 commented on this video, and I thought they had some interesting things to say.
Hello,
and
straw man.
Hello, holy straw man.
Holy straw man. Sorry.
So there was a few people who had kind of similar comments, like 3 or so that said something similar, and I picked this one just because. So holy straw man, which by the way, like, it's funny because like when people just say straw man, like it's such an overused term. Like, okay,
right.
So Jello, like, first off, I wasn't trying to straw man any arguments. I'm just trying to say, like, hey, under the atheistic point of view, I'm not trying to make a case for theism. But anyway, let's see what he says I strawmanned about. But point is, I hope you can convince me that I actually didn't represent atheistic arguments how they should be represented. But I'm not like, I wasn't really trying to argue for anything. I'm just talking about, generally what some of the challenges are, at least as I see them. And by the way, so real quick on that point, some atheists might like read these challenges and be like, yeah, those are like, we don't know how life came from non-life. We don't. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. The thing is like every worldview has some difficult questions. And all I'm pointing out is like, hey, you're not immune to difficult questions in atheism. Like there's some really interesting questions. And I only brought up 3 that I think would be hard to reconcile, but like there's way more, and like those are like the kind of 3 that if I were an atheist, I think I don't know how I'd reconcile those, and it would bother me. It'd bother me. Some people, it doesn't bother, like they're just like, I don't know where life came from. I don't care. But like, it doesn't mean that there's going to be deep questions. And that's what I'm trying to point out. There's deep questions, even for atheists. So anyway.
And wouldn't you say, like, from a theist background, we have a stronger basis to stand on, because we can say, I don't know, with the hope and certainty that someday we probably will know, where the atheist is sort of like, well, I don't know. And, there's no like, Almighty God with the answers.
They think science might. Well, and I specifically, this is worth bringing up. I'm specifically also talking about naturalistic atheists who like believe in only like non-supernatural things, like basically that is tied a lot to science. And so for them, we don't know where life came from, how life came from non-life. They'd say, well, maybe one day we'll discover it scientifically. Right. Of course, they might be dead by the time that happens.
Science is sort of their theology in some fashion, right?
Yeah. I mean, naturalists
their system of having hope and trust and faith in that system, hoping that it'll give you further answers.
I mean, they're not the exact same scientism and naturalism, but they're so related that I would say, they're anyone who's one is probably the other. But yeah, so let's check this out. So abiogenesis is a difficult problem that has not yet been solved. However, the lack of a solution does not justify filling in the gap with God. And so I find that ironic that he said holy straw man when I like literally am not saying, I'm not arguing for God's existence with this. I'm saying that atheism has difficulties. And so this is a straw man in and of itself, which is hilarious to me.
That's what I thought when I read that. Uh-huh.
Look up God of the Gaps, which by the way, the whole process of science is a journey towards understanding. Just be careful that we're not using what's called science of the gaps. We're like, oh, we don't know that, but science will one day tell us. Same type of thing. You can use that both ways. Anyway, so Jello 4827, that'd be a problem if I were trying to say this is proof that God exists. I'm not doing that at all in this video. So sorry, but holy straw man. Number 2, morality is not objective. If it was, and the Bible was our source of objective morality, we would say that it's okay to own slaves, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't think the Bible is our source of objective morality. I think the light of Christ and all that. We have a nuanced view as Latter-day Saints. And like, for some reason, I don't know why people don't understand this, that like, as if every scripture is designed to teach us a positive example instead of like a negative one. You know what I mean? Like most of the time it's about repentance and how stupid people can be. Is what scripture is. And by the way, the Bible,
another straw man there with point 2, right? Like that's Speaking of holy straw man, number 2 is a straw man with the slaves argument. Yeah.
Which about Jello 4827. I'm not trying to pick on you per se. There's a few people who brought up the same thing, so I just happened to pick yours. And I think if we were to talk, like I'm trying to talk to you via this right now, which I think I tagged you in this, so you can comment. You'd probably if you're an atheist, be like, you know what? Yeah, he's right. There are challenges to every point of view. My point of view has some challenges, and they're not big enough hurdles for me to not believe in hard Gnostic atheism. So anyway, the whole fine-tuning argument is based on ridiculous, flawed assumptions. So we've observed one universe that was fit for life. So where's the basis for your claim that it's unlikely? Well, I guess I could have presented the really good version of the fine-tuning argument in this video. I kind of just assumed that people knew what that argument was, but I guess I would encourage Jello 4827 to look it up and kind of the back and forth. Is it a perfect argument, Jello? No. And frankly, it's not even like a good argument for Latter-day Saints. So I'm kind of like even stepping out of like an argument that kind of, in some ways you could say works against Latter-day Saints, but as an atheist, that'd be a hard one to reconcile. And so, it's still something that even Latter-day Saints have to think about is like, well, if he created it from nothing, then I guess he could set all those parameters how he wanted. But if he didn't, then it's not like a bad thing for Latter-day Saints. It's just no longer like a proof for God's existence, which isn't how I was using it here. Not a proof, just like how do you kind of reconcile that? Anyway. So yeah, I misdefined theory. Well, I don't think so. Anyway, so that's what Jello said. Any last thoughts on that, Kurt?
We love you, Jello, and we pray for you, and you're a child of God. So there you go.
Yeah, Jello, if you're an atheist, check out the next video where I start to get talk about some of the things that we have in common. Yeah, so totally. All right, next one. YouTube viewer guy 55567. What a name. So this one I thought was interesting. This is from a Christian person who's saying things atheists and Mormons can't explain. Why does matter exist? Just does magically. Why does space exist? Just does magically. Laws of physics just do. So do you have any raw reactions to that?
I mean, does everything need a purpose? Actually, this feeds into, I just did an episode with a BYU Idaho religion professor about this phrase we often use of everything happens for a reason, which is based in nothing, no doctrine. But it's something we say because it makes us feel better, right?
Or we adopted from the Christians,
Yeah, I mean, it gets passed around, right? So why does matter exist? I mean, I would love for you, I would love to give you like a incredible answer, right? That Joseph Smith once said about this about matter, and that's why at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Get it? It doesn't matter. Anyways,
there's some irony in this because this person I'm assuming they're a Christian or like a classical theist, given that they're attacking Mormons and atheists. Why does matter exist? Well, for us, we kind of believe in the scientific principle in some sense, and maybe not like, this kind of gets deeper, like, because we are like monists and like spiritual matter. Like, basically we say that there's certain things that have just always existed, intelligences, God, things like that, space, all that, right? Or I don't know, maybe not space physically. That's where you kind of get into the weeds of Latter-day Saints have, the more fine matter, maybe that's always existed, but the matter that like the physical stuff we're seeing right now, maybe that hasn't. So you can kind of get into the different schools of thought, even within Latter-day Saint belief. But the irony here is why does matter exist? It just does magically. Well, if you believe in creation ex nihilo, then it does just magically, because God just snapped his fingers and then made it out of nothing. So that's pretty magical, which how does someone who's like outside of time and space and is like, completely isolated, separated from all of that, no parts, no passions, timeless, spaceless, can interact with time and space? You kind of get into like this weird version of what's called like the mind-body problem. So for them, it does just magically exist because somehow God snapped his fingers. So you can't snap your fingers if you're without time, because that implies a beginning and end. Somehow, snapped his fingers metaphorically, everything magically appeared. And meanwhile, they're claiming that we say that these things magically exist. Well, no, we're saying that there are things that are eternally existing that have never not existed. And that is actually logically coherent and not magical. Anyway, so...
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, are these questions, maybe for the more general traditional Christians, are these questions more important for them to have answers because it sort of then shows that, well, because God did that, like it sort of is proof of his magnificence that he can create something out of nothing, right? Where I look at these and think, well, I think for God to have, there's got to be boundaries and consistency and structure in this existence we have, and so we do need physics, we do need space, we do need matter. But I don't think, again, we don't believe in a God that thought, well, what I'll do is I'll create matter and space and physics, and then we'll get this thing going. I think it's sort of just not a non-issue. Where maybe for traditional Christians, it's more of a thing.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, and it is interesting. I think that's one thing that I take away from the Latter-day Saint line of belief is we really have tools to reconcile a lot of different things because we believe in God, but we also believe in science. No, we believe in like reconciling like the laws of physics, for example. Like you could believe as a Latter-day Saint that God is essentially the great scientist who just like understands the actual laws of physics beyond what we're capable of knowing. Or you could believe that like the laws of physics are just like how we understand things here on Earth, and the laws that he follows are like much higher than that, and it's just kind of like a temporary thing. There's like a lot of wiggle room within Latter-day Saint theology about like whether or not like the science we're discovering, how much of that reflects like universal like forever truth versus like some kind of truth that just like here in our existence. I tend to think that like there is truth that we're discovering that is like always true, that follows laws, and like we tend to like really appreciate law and that God himself follows said law. Okay, so it looks like Michael Williams Zitar 8 said, and this is right in line with what we're talking about, said, I told this guy already, the laws of physics which are observed prove that matter and energy cannot be destroyed or created. He is stuck on the whole uncaused cause bit and thinks there must be a beginning to time, matter, etc. That is absolutely right. So because for them, the way they conceive of God, and I'm not trying to straw man anyone here, by the way. So, like feel free to correct me in the comments, people, instead of just like saying straw man without like, supporting the straw man. Anyway, the way that they kind of arrive at God is kind of this Neoplatonist type of view where God is the unmoved mover. They have this perfect being theology. And so the kind of one of their deductive arguments, if you will, to show that God exists is show that like, there has to be, you keep going back in the causal chain of what created what, and the ultimate cause has to be God, and so on. And so there has to be this uncaused cause that created everything. But no, there could be, just, that's not how it has to be. Like the way we see it is there's like a lot of things that are just uncaused that always exist. God being one of those who like put things into motion to bring the other intelligences, the not as smart, or what does it say? The lesser intelligences to become like he is. Anyway, it gets really deep and stuff, and I'm no like philosopher here, but I do find this interesting. But Kurt, any thoughts on the super chat, and any more thoughts on this?
No, I guess I'm trying to, somebody else referenced the Dunning-Kruger effect related to that perspective, where I'm trying to push myself, like thinking, we're responding to those questions like, I don't know, does it really matter? And maybe an atheist looks at those 3 points that you brought up like, I don't know, does it really matter? Like, we may say, well, it doesn't. What does it matter where matter came from or why we have physics? I mean, we just use it as part of life. And so would the atheist say, just doesn't matter about morals? Like we just use it, and it's just a sort of part of our existence. It doesn't necessarily need a beginning point or a source. I don't know. I'm just trying to push my own self out of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, no, totally. I think atheists, some of them, I don't know. I would think, if you actually believe in what you believe, you probably have reconciled those for yourself and think, they're not that big of a deal. I'm talking to a Latter-day Saint audience for the most part. So,
right.
And just demonstrating that, hey, like wherever you go, there's not like any place that's going to have like perfect answer. And honestly, our theology is one of the best equipped for anything. Okay, little flip of gears here. Kurt.
Okay.
So have you heard? So I did this quiz a while back called the LDS Compass Quiz that mapped people onto.
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay. So some of the questions on there, every so often I'll put out just a poll, not because I'm like collecting the responses for any reason. I'm just trying to get like, conversation started and see what people say. So I want to get your thoughts on this one that actually just went out a while ago. It said, it is wrong to exclude transgender individuals from the temple. So most people strongly disagree with that, but you have, this is the distribution. But of course, the real question is what did these things mean? And that's where I like people to comment and kind of wrestle with the idea of like what this means. Because in a lot of ways, I think many Latter-day Saints do indeed agree with each other. It just kind of like depends on what exclude means, what does wrong mean in this sense. So how would you answer this question if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, and this reminds me of your Compass Quiz because each question was like you want to just say, well,
straight
it depends.
From it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Because you want to say, well, it depends, or what when you say transgender, does that mean somebody who is presenting themselves as their opposite sex of where they were born, or those types of things. So is it wrong to exclude transgender individuals from the temple? I would say this is so. I would say disagree. I don't know, but I may change tomorrow. That's right.
Okay, fair enough.
Disagree.
All right. Do you want to see how I do this one?
Yes.
Because I think, and I don't want to like spoil how people interpret this one, but here's how I interpret this one.
Okay.
Transgender has nothing to do with this question at all. Because is it wrong to exclude anyone from the temple? Like, what does transgenderism have to do with it?
Right.
No,
Okay.
it's not wrong.
Okay.
Like, we could exclude someone who's not transgender. We could exclude anyone. It's not wrong to exclude people from the temple.
Yes.
Like, we have a temple recommended interview. So for me, I guess I would strongly disagree then. Like, and I guess transgenderism is kind of thrown in there to really make people, catch them in this like political light of like,
yes.
Yeah, no, everyone does that. And and you're supposed to do that, I suppose, So yeah, like if you're, if you're not following the covenants, no matter how you identify, then yeah, it's not wrong to exclude you from the temple. That's how it works,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I hope I don't like skew people's
goes
answers
back
on this.
to my point where if you start to frame the gospel in terms of fairness, like, oh well, that's not fair to exclude anybody from a temple or transgender or anybody. Yeah. Again, you're on a dangerous path there because we're not trying to establish general fairness and equality in our faith experience. We're trying to sanctify people and help people progress and have a deeper connection with God, right? Again, and that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be in a temple or not, but that's what we're trying to do.
Heck yes. Yes. I love it. Well said. Well, let's get into the breaking news. I know you're excited about this one. This is interesting to say the least. So let's get into the segment, the Big Ear Bulletin. Everyone, the Big Ear Bulletin. Run. All right. Well, if you've been waiting around, this is the time to learn about an LGBTQ book which has been removed, supposedly, from Deseret Book. So here we go. Kurt, you had not heard of this. So
I had not.
Okay, so check this out. This has been going around. And I don't know for sure if it's true, but I have verified it on my own to see if it is the case. So you have Richard Ostler, sometimes known as Papa Ostler, a Latter-day Saint, self-proclaimed LGBTQ ally. And he has written books called Listen, Learn, and Love, Embracing LGBTQ Latter-day Saints, Listen, Learn, Love, Improving Latter-day Saint Culture, Listen, Learn, Love, Building the Good Ship Zion. All available at Deseret Book. At least they were. At least they were. So the rumor was going around that suddenly these are no longer available to purchase at Deseret Book. And so I went and tried and clicked on his links. This is still pinned to his profile. So I tried to click on his links. I tried searching it on Deseret Book, and this is the best I could come up with. Oh no, there was an error. So that tells me that the rumors must be true, and maybe it's a glitch and it's going to come back. Maybe they're just reworking something in the system. But as of right now, you cannot buy Richard Ostler's books from Deseret. You can't buy these specific books. Let me correct myself, because he does have
Right.
a number of books, but these specific ones about LGBTQ Latter-day Saints appear to
I'm pretty
be
sure these are his
missing.
only books, but
Oh, really? I thought he found. I could be wrong. Maybe it was
his
some
brother
other.
also wrote a book. So
Oh, maybe. By the way, you've written a book
David
for
also.
Deseret Book.
That's right. And
So
this kind
my
of made
question
me
is,
worry.
is yours
It's
still
still
up there?
It is still
Okay.
up there. You can find it in Gospel Voices right after President Freeman's books. You get Kurt Franklin book, and go buy it. It's called "Is
Kurt
God
Franklin.
Disappointed in Me?" So it's still there
check
on
this
Desert
out,
Book.
Kurt. Yours being there is another nugget that this shows that it's probably not some kind of glitch on the system. I mean, so
because if they were really getting rid of books, they would have got rid of.
Yeah, if they were getting rid of books, yours would have been gone first, man. I'm just kidding.
For
No,
sure.
no, I'm just saying, it's not like every book has this glitch to it,
Yes,
It's just,
and I went to the website and I even searched for his name. Nothing came up. I searched for LGBT, and a few books came up, but they're all Deseret Book published. I think one was written by Ben Shalati, which is published through Deseret Book, so it's sort of been through their vetting system or whatever. And then the other one was Tom Christofferson, his book, which was also published by Deseret Book. And Richard Ostler's books were not published by Deseret Book, but they were
sold
put on the shelf. Yes.
Gotcha.
It's like my book is not published by Deseret Book, but it's sold at Deseret Book. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I could go into a local Deseret Book and find your book. Is that what I'm hearing?
I expect you to. So report back.
Yeah. Yeah, if I don't,
and what you do, you always go in there.
Just kidding.
Of course, grab one copy for yourself and buy it. And then the other copy there, you want to turn that out so it's forward facing and just cover up someone else's book because they get enough face time. And then that way, that book will more likely sell. So.
Yeah, everyone check out Kurt Franklin's book. But anyway,
I digress.
Yeah. So look at this. Yeah, it said, "Oh no, there was an error." So, and anyone in the chat, I'd be curious. So I tried this earlier today. Maybe it's been reconciled since then. Maybe Richard Ostler pulled his books from Deseret Book. Maybe it was Deseret Book saying we're no longer going to sell this. I don't know. He did still have this posted. So at least he seems to believe.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. You're checking right now. Okay. See, we're live checking. He still has a post. Have you clicked on any of the links? I'm curious if it's changed.
I click on the Deseret Book link, it takes me to kind of like
the homepage.
Is that the homepage? Like it has. Yeah.
Like one of them just took me to some generic page. The second one brought me this. Oh no, there was an error. So I wonder if that's what you'll get on the second one.
Interesting.
So very interesting.
Oh, okay. There's more here. Okay. Mm-hmm. This one says, "Oh no, there was an error."
So even if you wanted to, you couldn't buy it from Deseret Books. So you got to go to Amazon. So what do you think? Is this some kind of just a coincidence, or do you think Deseret Book has decided that which by the way, for anyone who's wondering, you can go check out, I think he even has these books available for you can read, I think for free. I want to say I saw somewhere because he does have some kind of podcast. So Richard Ostler, he gets into a little bit of controversy sometimes because of his unapologetic stances that seem to disagree with some of the fundamental doctrines of the church. And so there's a little bit of tension. You'll see Jacob Hansen has talked about it several times.
Right.
And some of the stuff he talks about is very things that seem to go against the teachings of the church. And so that's why everyone's kind of scratching their head okay, so why is this being published by Deseret Book, which, by the way, for those who don't know, is owned by the church. So that's where the head scratcher came in. And now people who are wondering are kind of, I don't know, there's some happy people seeing that this stuff is no longer being published. But anyway, Kurt, you're going to say something.
Yeah. So speaking as an LDS author, getting into Deseret Book, even though it's not published by Deseret Book, I mean, that's a big, you are focused on making that happen, right? Make sure, you have the right distribution and things so that it ends up on the shelves there. Because there is some type of, approval, or what would you call it? Just some
a review process, I guess.
Well, they don't review it per se. I mean, I think they do to some extent, but it's different when they actually put their logo and seal on it, and they don't put those books as you walk in on the, they're not promoting them after you leave promoting. They won't forward face them unless you do that yourself. And anyways,
so you're saying that they will purposely not forward face them. So that's why you're saying that.
I'm pretty sure when I go in there and look at all the forward facing books, 90% of the time I'm guessing they are Deseret Book published books. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
And here's another left turn is I consider Richard Ostler a friend of mine. I've been on his podcast. I know him. If I saw him at a conference, I would greet him with a hug. He's a phenomenal individual. With that said, yeah,
you
there's
know
a
him
lot.
this entire time. Wow.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah.
So with that said, I think we're both clear of just our associations with different, I'm more associated with, I've been on the board of North Star, which is a LGBT faith affirming organization. So with our associations, I think it's pretty clear that we see things differently. Like his approach, I do have some concerns about, and I had some disagreements and some friendly disagreements, but he's always been very kind to me, and I truly believe, like, just knowing him, he feels deep in his soul that he is doing something. He is striving to have a positive impact in the life of generally of Latter-day Saints, right? Especially those in the LGBT circles, right? And so, but again, we just kind of sort of disagree with method, approach, or perspective on that, and that's maybe for another conversation. But it is sort of it's interesting that like this breaking news was interesting to me because I thought Deseret Book's sort of trying to walk that line, but there are, again, there in his book there are some chapters and things where I'm just like, ooh, I just don't think that perspective is necessarily helpful in affirming faith, which actually creates a lot of hope and for LGBT Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, appreciate your perspective there, and I mean,
we'll see how it unfolds. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
interesting. You think Deseret Book would call him and be like, "Hey, heads up, thank you for writing this book, but we are now taking it off our shelves." And
you would think, I'm curious if he's going to say anything and be like, "Hey, like they decided not to for whatever reason because it just, it's Deseret Book," and if it's like kind of going against certain doctrinal claims, I can see why they would. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised based on and I haven't read the books. I've only seen like some of the more problematic snippets, and I'm surprised they published it. But maybe they didn't review it that carefully. And like the idea behind it, trying to love and appreciate and understand LGBTQ individuals and the unique challenges that they may or may not be facing is definitely a good thing. So,
right.
Real quick super chat from Luis Valdez 3893 says, "The big problem this brings to the church is that we are being asked to be traditionalists, that is, to be a Christian religion so ancient that it is only recognized culturally, regardless of the theology that is taught." Let me read that one more time. I'm not sure I understand it. "The big problem this brings to the church is that we are being asked to be traditionalist, that is, to be a Christian religion so ancient that it is only recognized culturally, regardless of the theology that is taught." Thank you for the super chat. Do you have any thoughts, Kurt, on that?
Yeah, so I don't totally follow it here. Has to be traditionalist, right? That is to be Christian religion so ancient that it is only recognized culturally, regardless of theology that is taught. So I think he's just saying that because our being a Christian has so much history that we naturally have to be tied to old traditional ideas, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Regardless of what our theology thinks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Luis Valdez, really appreciate it. Yeah, I think I kind of understand. If you want to clarify more, that'd be great. But basically, I mean, we do believe in Christianity, and we believe in kind of like the ancient form of Christianity. At least that's what we're trying to believe, right? Like the original church is established by Jesus. And so I guess maybe what you're trying to say is, we care more about how we practice our religion than opposed to the actual theology. We believe in orthopraxy over orthodoxy per se, or like, I mean, not that we don't care about theology at all. We care about believing certain things, but like at the end of the day, we care about how we're treating each other. And so the theology is less important than how we practice our religion.
Mm.
And for some groups of Christians, it's kind of the opposite in the sense that, like, hey, you need to believe in the right Jesus. It doesn't matter how nice and how good you're being and how much service you're doing. You need to believe in the right Jesus or else you're going to hell. But for us, it's like, no, like, we don't even believe in hell, and at least in that kind of way, right? Like, we believe, hey, like, you do good, you try your best, you help those around you, you love those around you, you seek God, you're probably going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You know, we're more universalists than that. Anyway, I think that's what you're saying, regardless of the theology that is taught. Yeah, like, at the end of the day, you know, we do care more about how you're acting as opposed to all that. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Appreciate the contribution to the show. Last thing here, Kurt.
All right.
And this will be the last thing we wrap up on. So, Elder Cook said, beware of increasing deception from AI. Latter-day Saint Apostle advises BYU students. The future of the church and our very civilization, Quentin Cook says. Elder Quentin Cook. Thank you, Salt Lake Tribune. Not. Elder Quentin L. Cook says, depends. So the future of the civilization, of our very civilization, depends on being able to navigate an increasingly complex world. AI in the form, like, the thing is AI is great. You know, I work in technically, you know, I'm a data scientist. My title right now is actually AI ML engineer, machine learning, artificial intelligence engineer. So fun stuff, great use for it. But like, the thing that, you know, everyone's thinking about, like, oh, be careful what ChatGPT tells you, be careful what LDS bot tells you. But the AI runs much deeper than that, because all of these algorithms, when you're swiping on YouTube Shorts or Instagram, that is AI. You know, people don't like to think of it as AI, but you know, it's intelligence, it's machine learning that is, you know, designed to show you things not based off of truth. None of this is based off of truth. Even AIs, you know, are fundamentally trying to make it seem like what they're saying is legit. It's generating something that looks real as opposed to knowing what's real and what's not real. You know, they do go through levels of like training where they teach it facts over time, but those facts overwhelmingly just come from the internet. And it also has flexibility in how it presents those things. And probabilistically, it can, you know, just, you know, hallucinate is the word that sometimes gets used. It does better at that stuff, but ultimately you're still working with essentially the internet. And the internet, the training data, which is a lot of what this AI stuff comes from, you know, we've known for a long time. Like, the saying is, oh, you read that from the internet. Oh, it's on the internet, so it must be true, so on and so forth. Well, all that's kind of like baked into AI. And it's not just when you interact with it with chat. There's also algorithms feeding what you see on Facebook, what you see in Instagram, what ads you're getting, so on. Even like when you Google search, there's AI involved in all these processes that are trying to present something, or not trying, they are presenting things to you in a filtered way to try and tailor you for marketing.
Right. Yeah,
Which sounds kind of cynical, but I mean, ultimately that's what it is, because that's how they, you know, make their money. Anyway, so yes, like, I love seeing beware of increasing deception from AI. Yeah. And ultimately that deception isn't anything new. It's just kind of like baked and packaged in a new way that makes it sound a little bit more deceitful. So anyway, your thoughts, Kurt?
Yeah. So this is interesting just to seeing this technology unfold and how we respond to it as, you know, as mortals and humans, and, you know, with a limited brain capacity, even though it's quite extensive. But it seems like we're shifting from the information age to the AI age. And when we do that, we can't help but sort of apply the perspectives of the information age to the AI age, right? So sure, you know, should we beware of increasing deceptions from AI? Like, yeah, but to me, it's sort of like that's sort of the thinking of, like, with Google, like you were saying, like, you should be leery of you shouldn't just assume everything that Google tells you or points you towards is a good source, right? Where AI seems like we're on a whole different level that, yeah, I think we're just in this transition where we say these things, but in the long term, like in a year, we could be so further down that we could just dream about the days where we were just saying, well, be careful with that AI thing. And it's like, yeah, but now it's like, it's cooking my meals, and I don't know, like I just feel like it's hard to, and I really, my heart goes out to Elder Cook and others that are trying to bring awareness and help us be more sensitive to some of these technologies. But it's like, I don't know, at this point, I'm just sort of holding on, and hopefully, but at the end of this, we like where we're at. I don't know.
Yeah, and he is talking to BYU students, which I think is worth noting, because I think for those individuals who are being born into a world with AI in the form it is now are going to have unique challenges, as opposed to those of us who, were around before you could just, interact with a hyper intelligent, artificially intelligent super bot kind of a thing. Like it impacts industries in ways that I don't even think we're going to know yet. And I think it's going to be mostly negative in some ways, I guess. It depends on the industry.
I guess my mind goes to, like, when I think of, back in the day when Elvis was coming on the scene, right? And all the older generation was so worried about this Elvis character that was like thrusting his hips on the stage. And now from our perspective, we're like, oh, believe me, those thrusting hips are nothing to worry about. So you got, that's sort of like, we don't quite understand what's coming, but I also understand the warning. But
yeah, there's like, have you seen, that reminded me of this silly meme that's like how parents from the 60s thought the Beatles were, and it shows the Beatles and it's like all fast paced and like they put like screamo music behind it and they're like banging their heads. Like that's what parents of the 60s thought the Beatles were like. It's so funny. Like they were a satanic group, and you listen to the Beatles now and it's like singing about holding a girl's hand. It's like, we could use more music that's like that, honestly. I love the Beatles. Anyway, it's good stuff. I do think, this is good warnings to keep in mind. We need to have this in the back of our head all the time. Like, hey, be careful with AI. Especially the younger you are, the more careful I think you need to be, because you're growing up in a weird society that, like, we don't know what it's like. But the apostles, they have some good things to say. Anyway.
And at the end of all this, Jesus will still be our Redeemer. You can count on that. So,
amen. All right, Kurt, where can people find you? Leading Saints, the podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people see it as a podcast, but we actually have a fantastic online community called Zion Lab. We call it a think tank for Zion, where people
Is that on Facebook? Where's that on?
No, that's its own platform. So if you go to leadingsaints.org/Zion, you can even download the Leading Saints app and access it that way. And we have all sorts of conversations happening, questions, best practices, everything from, specific callings to, just how to be a better Zion builder in life and keep your covenants. And it's a very active, fun community. So at least jump on over there. You don't even have to have a profile to poke around and look at it, but maybe you'll create a profile if you want to comment or post something and keep the conversation going at Zion Lab. So leadingsaints.org/Zion.
Excellent. And you have a Leading Saint YouTube channel now as well.
Right. All
right.
Go subscribe.
And check out his book. I didn't even know he wrote a book until earlier today. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go check this out.
That's right.
Anyway, is it on Audible? I love Audible.
It is. I read every word on Audible. So,
dude, okay. Now I got to check this out. All right.
That is credits.
Kurt Franken from Leading Saints. This is Ether's Elephant. Thank you for tuning in to the live stream.